Hi, everybody. Elida Zweidler-McKay with Engaging Leadership, where we're all about helping you become an amazing, engaging leader that people want to follow and that people want to bring onto their teams because you will be so productive and so valuable to their organizations. So today I want to talk to you about, I just got this blog from Gretchen Rubin. I don't know if you read Gretchen Rubin or not. She's the author of The Happiness Project, and she's also written books on habit forming and on clearing your home of clutter and all kinds of other things. She's a fabulous writer. She does a ton of research before she writes what she writes. And so I found her to be a really useful resource. So I've subscribed to her regular newsletter, and the one that just came across my desk was so good. I couldn't wait until my usual go live time to share it with you. So apparently, the Department of Homeland Security has recently declassified a pamphlet that was created in 1944 by the organization that was the predecessor to the CIA to outline behaviors that somebody could take on if they wanted to sabotage the operations of an enemy organization. Now, a lot of it has some really technical stuff about manufacturing and production and agriculture and that kind of stuff. But there are a couple of sections that are related to working in organizations and managing and leading teams that I just had to share with you. So let me pull it up. In the section on how to provide general interference with organizational production, insist on doing everything through channels. Never permit shortcuts to be taken in order to expedite a decision. Make speeches. Talk as frequently as possible and at great length. Illustrate your points by long anecdotes and accounts of personal experiences. Never hesitate to make a few appropriate patriotic comments. When possible, refer all matters to committees for further study and consideration. Attempt to make committees as large as possible, never less than 5. Bring up irrelevant issues as frequently as possible. Haggle over precise wording of communications, minutes, and resolutions. Refer back to matters decided upon at the last meeting and attempt to reopen the question of advisability of that decision. Advocate caution. Be reasonable and urge your fellow conferencees to be reasonable and avoid haste, which might result in embarrassment or difficulties later on. Be worried about the propriety of any decision. Raise the question of whether such action is as contemplated lies within the jurisdiction of the group or whether it might conflict with the policies of some higher echelon. Now, if you are like most people working in organizations, I'm guessing that a lot of those behaviors sound awfully darn familiar, that they are what you're living through on a daily basis in your own organization. And lo and behold, once upon a time, those were considered potential sabotaging behaviors, which I just think is so fascinating. There are a couple more I wanted to share with you in the section on managers and supervisors. And I'm not going to read this whole section, but just a couple of examples. In making work assignments, always sign out the unimportant jobs first. See that the important jobs are assigned to inefficient workers of poor machines. Insist on perfect work in relatively unimportant products. Send back for refinishing those which have the least flaw. Approve other defective parts whose flaws are not visible to the naked eye. When training new workers, give incomplete or misleading instructions. And to lower morale and with it production, be pleasant to inefficient workers. Give them undeserved promotions. Discriminate against efficient workers. Complain unjustly about their work. Again, if you have worked in an organization for any amount of time, I am certain you've come up against these behaviors. Now, my guess is that most of the time they're unintentional. People tend to be pleasant to inefficient workers if they have some kind of bias that has them see more of what that inefficient worker is doing as productive than maybe the more efficient workers, or give out work assignments that are easy and short rather than the bigger term, more important ones, simply because they're overwhelmed and they haven't done the strategic thinking that needs to happen to start with the most important stuff first. All of these behaviors, I think, show up inadvertently over and over again in organizations. And it's important for you to be able to notice them and see them for what they are, which is really creating the opportunity to get in the way of productivity, to get in the way of results. So to be aware of them both in yourself, but then also to notice when they're happening with other people and to have something that you can do about them. I will say, though, that sometimes behaviors like these and others that are sabotaging behaviors are not unintentional. I have heard over and over again on some of the calls that I've been doing with potential clients, and one I just had recently, stories of people who are intentionally political in a bad way in the organization. Somebody who intentionally was throwing people under the bus, or intentionally putting someone else's job down so that they would look better and they would be able to get ahead, or intentionally sabotaging the work of another department so that their department would happen to come across in a better light. I will tell you that if you are part of any of those kinds of strategies, they do not work in the long term. In fact, the potential client I spoke with about one of these particularly egregious examples was also sharing that essentially that company is kind of imploding. So, those Enron type approaches will work in the short term. They will get you ahead, they will get your company ahead, but in the long term, they implode. And so it's just not a good idea. So if you've been tempted to play games like that in your own organization, I'm going to strongly encourage you to knock it off and to be looking for more effective ways that you can be contributing to the overall growth of the organization. So specifically, and this is building on the work of Dr. Joel DeLuca, who was a professor at Wharton when I was there, there are a couple of different dimensions of politics in an organization. One dimension is, does the political activity benefit you or not? And the other dimension is, does it benefit the organization or not? The kinds of politics that are sabotaging that we're talking about are the ones that will benefit the person, but come at the cost of the productivity or the success of the organization. Those are what DeLuca called Machiavellian strategies. And in the end, those are the ones that tend to implode the organization. On the other hand, politics where you're looking out for your own best interest and the best interest of the company are the most effective, because that's where you're putting your own energy in, you're going to get something out of it, and you're lining that up to what's going to be in the best interest of the company. So you can see how some of these sabotaging kind of behaviors fall into that Machiavellian, going after some interest that's not the best interest of the organization kind of approach. One of the most important things that you can do for your career is to be aware of the kinds of behaviors that we just talked about, the kinds of sabotaging Machiavellian political moves that people around you might be making, and then to have a really solid set of strategies and approaches that you can use to head them off. Those are the kinds of things that I help my clients learn how to do, and the kinds of things that I help my clients learn how to maneuver around. There's no way to get out of politics in an organization, but there is a way to show up and to be authentic and to be true to yourself and to be loyal to your organization while you're being political in the face of people who are not acting in the best interest of the organization. And they're tricky situations. They're hard to do. It's really useful to have a coach or a trusted advisor who's outside the organization who can help you move through them. And that is the kind of thing that I provide to my clients, sort of holding their hand, walking them through the situation, understanding what's going on, and then figuring out what moves they can make that will really help move the organization forward and, by extension, their own careers, without having to feel like they're doing anything yucky or untoward or sabotaging in any kind of way. If that's something you're curious about, or if you've been a victim to somebody's sabotaging behaviors and it's resulted in you not getting promoted or not being able to move ahead or even getting laid off, let's talk about it, because usually that has a bunch of impact on your, can have a big impact on your self-esteem and on your sense of energy for work. And so piece of the work that we would do together is to help clear that out so that you can come to your next role fresh and ready to go, and with the kind of tools that are going to help you be successful regardless of what's happening around you. You can reach out to me at zmcoach.net/call. We'll talk for about 45 minutes. You can tell me all about your situation. I'll see what I can offer to help, and if it would be a good fit for us to work together to get you through it or get you past it or get you into your next situation, we will definitely talk about what that could look like. zmcoach.net/call. I look forward to talking to you. Take care.